Decentralized finance has enabled many to discover new ways to passively and actively earn with crypto assets. However, all that upside does not come without sizable risk. You can easily lose 100% of your money in any DeFi app or protocol you decide to ape into. We'll outline more of the specifics in this video, but above all else, always know that you can lose it all in a single app or wallet, so applying a simple rule of thumb can help mitigate this risk. Don't deposit more into any app than you're willing to lose. Now here's a rundown of the 7 most common risks or 7 most deadly DeFi sins everyone should consider before getting involved. First up, the OG of all risks, smart contract bugs. A bug is what allowed hackers to drain 3.6 million ETH from the DAO back in 2016, the first major project to resemble what we now call DeFi today. Now, the most reputable DeFi team attempts to mitigate the risk of bugs by hiring better developers and submitting their code to auditing teams. However, time after time, we've seen unaudited code and audited code fail a DeFi community, sometimes leading to losses as big as $20 million. And if you're looking to mitigate the risk of smart contract bugs, thankfully there's DeFi insurance from the likes of Nexus Mutual, which we've covered in another video. Next up is less specific to DeFi and probably more applicable to any cryptocurrency you hold in a non-custodial wallet. If you give up your seed phrase or are tricked into entering the seed phrase into a fake website or app, well, that means you're going to lose everything in that wallet. What's in there no longer belongs to you. So a lesson here, never enter your seed phrase or share it or store it digitally in a place like your phone or computer that could be hacked. Oracle failure has been a major vector of attack in DeFi in 2020, where bad actors use a flash loan to buy or sell an asset, which manipulates the price of that asset just long enough for them to arbitrage the difference and exploit a protocol for millions. And think of it this way, if the application on-chain thinks an apple is worth $100 for even a few seconds, while the rest of the world is buying and selling apples at just a single dollar, a bad actor can sell apples at $100 and walk away with a large profit until, of course, it's revealed shortly after what they've done. But by that time, there's often no way to retrieve the funds because of the unchangeable nature of the blockchain. And the trustlessness and permissionlessness enables someone to remain completely anonymous. Oracle failure is really one of the reasons why Chainlink is such a revered project, solving a massive challenge in DeFi's adoption. Next is admin key risk. Now, when you hear of rug pulls, it's usually because of an admin key. Now, we always have to be on the lookout for centralized admin controls that allow a developer or team to lock or move funds deposited into the DeFi app. Normally, the most reputable teams in DeFi like Compound will put in a time lock that prevents changes to code from happening without approval from a DAO governing upgrades and proposals, and second, a time delay so that the community can be warned if a potentially unfavorable or controversial change is coming to the protocol. Now, there are also liquidity crises, which refers to a lockup of funds and a lack of liquidity. Simple example is if you lend DAI to other, but all the DAI is then subsequently borrowed and the app indicates 100% of DAI is utilized, well, you can't get your DAI out until some borrowers return the funds. Now, this is less likely to happen, is much less concerning as a risk, but one nonetheless due to the over-collateralized loans that dominate DeFi. So yeah, it could happen. Governance failure is another one interwoven into protocols like this. There's debates whether whales can exert the massive influence required to vote in their own best interest and hurt the community, while others might argue that whales probably wouldn't self-sabotage a protocol where their money is invested in it. And there's also ongoing debates about deep-pocketed CeFi now exerting its influence on DeFi governance protects the interests of the mega large exchanges. Anytime you've got exposure to stablecoins or pegged assets like WBTC, well, of course, there's the risk that the stablecoins or pegged assets could depeg, causing all sorts of issues like an AMM liquidity pool going to zero. And this is exactly why baskets of stablecoins exist, like MUSD by MStable, which aims to establish a stablecoin made up of the most liquid and popular stablecoins to mitigate the risk of one of them failing. Now, the key takeaway with all these risks is that there's a lot that can kill you in DeFi, so be sure that you limit your exposure to them and to DeFi in general in your overall portfolio until you're more educated and willing to take on the risks discussed here. And of course, throughout the course of this year, we will undoubtedly see more risks and more strange exploits emerge. But what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And in DeFi every day, these risks are being better addressed and mitigated. But it still leaves us as self-sovereign individuals with a tremendous amount of responsibility and accountability for where we invest our money. And if it all goes wrong, there's generally nobody you can ring up to say, yeah, where's my money, mate? Yeah, what are we gonna do about it, yeah? You're on your own. Think about that. So doing research for videos like DeFi 101 and thinking before you ape is highly advisable. We should put that on a t-shirt. Think before you ape. You heard it here first. Get the merch. It is remarkable to think a year ago, many of us didn't even know what DeFi was. And now here we are making video series on how to navigate the overwhelming amount of detail necessary to really participate in it. And there are forces both propelling us forward and holding us back. First off, in DeFi we have composability, which enables such network effects to grow Ethereum. Composability refers to the ability to compose applications and protocols, to stack them on top of each other. And it's why Ethereum has the largest, most active developer conferences. And it's why the number of developers that build on Ethereum dwarfs all other blockchains, including those contributing to Bitcoin. This composability brings lots and lots of builders together. The more applications and protocols launched, the more tools developers have available to build with, and so on. They can all be stuck on top of each other. That's why we call them money Legos. It's a flywheel of innovation and probably the one attribute about Ethereum that kind of makes it impossible to replicate. And this, of course, is where money Lego comes from. In DeFi, each money Lego can stack and fit with lots of other money Legos to benefit the overall systemic growth of DeFi and the community's ability to release newer and better applications and to do it faster and to generally just innovate. DeFi started with trailblazers like MakerDAO and DAI and Kyber seemingly years ago now. And we're at the point now of not being surprised to have access to DeFi-powered options, yield automation, and even insurance. Now, the opposite of composability, which is the good thing, is complexity. And complexity may well be the biggest enemy to adoption and part of what holds back DeFi from growing even faster. Not everyone can be financially and technologically literate to leverage these new money softwares built on Ethereum. The complexity of DeFi might impress your friends and family at dinner, but try telling that to your girlfriend or boyfriend. It can also be off-putting to those not wanting to spend days and nights learning about how to use DeFi. And crypto is hard enough, but DeFi adds another layer of complexity on top. So what is DeFi's greatest opportunity is also one of its greatest challenges. More need to be educated to benefit from this more democratized access to technology. Secondly, we have the permissionlessness of DeFi to enable anyone, anywhere to participate with an internet connection and a minimal amount of funds they're brave enough to deposit. Now, we might still be in the early days and have barely scratched the surface of long-term visions to bank the unbanked, but we are now living through radical access and opportunity for anyone, anywhere to launch software that can take in hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of liquidity without asking anyone's permission. And they do it fast as well. Ethereum is a sandbox for building DeFi money games, and everyone's invited to play. Just exercise a modicum of caution. Now, the opposite of permissionlessness might be regulatory risks. Now, DeFi plays in a space of innovation that has, of course, caught the eye of regulators across the world, most notably with the near $20 billion in stablecoins. And in 2021, we can expect increased regulatory threats to those building and participating in the DeFi community. And lastly, we have the DeFi community, which is mainly a subset now of the Ethereum community. And not only does Ethereum have an estimated 500,000 active addresses and 1 million users at the end of 2020, and we talked earlier about Ethereum and hence DeFi and Ethereum having so many multiples more of developers working in its ecosystem compared to any other blockchain, including the second most active community of developers on Bitcoin. And the opposite of this vibrant and burgeoning community, it's worth noting the challenge is still high gas prices and the reality that few in the world have access to DeFi, with only so many have an internet connection or smartphone or the minimal funds needed to pay such high gas prices. Sure, you don't have to ask permission, and DeFi grew liquidity by over 30x in 2020, but what about being priced out from the ability to use DeFi? And even just in the last couple of days, all I've heard is grumbling from people saying, yeah, this is too expensive, gas. We're going to hear a lot more of that. So this past year has brought us gas prices from 10 gwai to between 500 to 1,000 gwai on the most active and volatile days on Ethereum. Thankfully, this is a challenge countless ETH2 researchers have been working on for years now. And with the launch of Phase 0 of Ethereum 2.0, the coming upgrade to Proof of Stake, we can see some light at the end of the tunnel for these painfully high fees that show up whenever DeFi gets busier with new applications and trading activity. But of course, we also have other Layer 1 protocols with faster transactions and lower fees and bridges to put them all together. Plus we have L2 solutions as well. So the future is looking bright. I don't think high gas fees are going to be a problem for much longer. Now the key takeaway here is DeFi, much like other transformational technologies that came before it, such as the internet, has huge opportunity and huge challenges ahead. Now if this really is the internet of money, we might liken where we're at to the 1990s. But humans have a knack for underestimating exponential growth. We might actually be living to the 1980s or an earlier parallel time frame in DeFi. Now, no matter where we are in that journey, there's no doubt that DeFi is a genie that you are not going to see put back in the bottle. This is not ICOs all over again. So I know what you're thinking, DeFi could be hopelessly confusing, but there's countless resources that have seized the opportunity to provide crucial information and education to help you along in your DeFi journey. These, in no particular order or ranking, are our top 10 DeFi resources. Firstly, us. No surprise there. You didn't think we'd leave ourselves out, did you? If you've enjoyed this DeFi 101 series, there's plenty more where that came from. So subscribe to the Defiant YouTube channel for more videos covering the most interesting, most extraordinary, and sometimes just downright bananas developments in DeFi. And don't forget to subscribe to the Defiant newsletter, which is the longest running DeFi newsletter. It goes out daily, and it was launched back in June 2019. Just imagine what DeFi looked like back then. One of our own contributors to this DeFi 101 series is DeFi's super user and educator, DeFi Dad. So subscribe to his DeFi tutorials on YouTube by going to defidad.com. Now, DeFi Dad is known for doing step-by-step tutorials on how you can do everything from becoming an LP to more sophisticated yield farming strategies. So do check that one out. Also, bookmark DeFiPulse.com. Not only do they have the most updated charts on total value locked, or TVL, for the most liquid apps in DeFi, but they also now have a tracker for the amount of tokenized BTC on Ethereum, which is getting up to around $4.3 billion at the moment. Lastly, DeFi Pulse has a blog which has all sorts of interesting and simple to understand posts on fundamental DeFi topics. Also, check out Bankless, a newsletter, podcast, and YouTube channel covering the latest in DeFi and more tactically, how to use DeFi apps and put your money to work. ETHHub is, you guessed it, it's the hub of Ethereum. Now, ETHHub started during the depths of the bear market in 2018 and has become a trusted wiki of all things Ethereum, including more technical topics on Ethereum 2.0 and its roadmap. ETHHub also has a great podcast and weekly newsletter. You'll find a very high quality YouTube educator delivering unfiltered coverage on cryptocurrency and traditional markets called Nuggets News, hosted by Alex Saunders. Alex regularly broadcasts to over 100,000 subscribers and with in-depth analysis of DeFi and Ethereum. How to DeFi is a fantastic ebook created by the team of DeFi experts at CoinGecko. You can download it for $14.99 with the link provided below. There's also Yield TV by Zappa, which is another go-to educational resource hosted by DeFi Dad. They do weekly lessons on DeFi fundamentals with a segment called DeFi Class, while covering the latest news in DeFi and interviewing the biggest names and those up and coming in DeFi. Discord. There's no better place to learn and dive in headfirst than to join a Discord channel for one of your favorite new DeFi applications. For example, communities like Zappa's Discord tend to have more general discussions on all things DeFi and can provide opportunities for virtual meetups and lessons. Twitter. Just go to Twitter and type in DeFi or decentralized finance, and you'll be exposed to an abundance of daily dialogue openly debating the future of P2P bankless finance. Gas. No, not the black oily fuel that runs your car and pollutes the planet. I'm talking about gas. The ETH required to power every transaction on Ethereum. Gas is a term that was coined to describe the ETH or Ether required to transact on the Ethereum network. So ETH is money, digital money, native to Ethereum, paid to miners to get your transaction confirmed in a block on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, more specifically, every transaction that occurs on the network requires a set amount of gas, which is the unit used to measure the computational power required to process a transaction. And to process a transaction included in a block, miners are expected to be compensated for this task. And this is accomplished by setting a gas price with every transaction, which is the cost of 1 unit of gas, denominated in gwei. 1 ETH equals 1 billion gwei. So for example, when you send ETH from one account to another, this costs 21,000 gas. And if you were to set a gas price of 1 gwei versus today, where we regularly see gas prices of 100 gwei or more, this transaction would cost 0.00021 ETH. Gas price is what everyone's been talking about since the summer of 2020 when DeFi exploded. See, when more people are competing or bidding to get their transactions confirmed, gas prices go up. Since the DeFi app or protocol will require a predetermined amount of gas, it's the gas price you bid that determines the maximum amount of ETH you pay as network fees. To summarize, gas price represents how much ETH you're willing to pay per gas. When you send a transaction, you specify the gas price in gwei per gas, where 1 gwei equals 0.0000001 ETH. I hope I said that right. Did I say that right? I'm not sure. The total fee paid equals gas price times gas used. So if you understand that gas price is the one variable you can set to pay more or less ETH for transaction fees on Ethereum, you can start to master how to save money on gas in DeFi. Here's 3 tips for how you can beat gas price. Before clicking confirm on any transaction, check gasnow.org because the prices are fluctuating in real time based on a kind of auction-like bidding among those submitting transactions on Ethereum, including DeFi apps. Gasnow.org or Etherscan Gas Tracker or ETHGasStation.info, all of them tell you in real time an estimated amount of time to confirm your transaction based on how high or low of a gas price you pay. Leverage L2-powered apps whenever possible, and as of today, we know that Synthetics, Uniswap, and Curve are all building with L2 solutions, which should enable transactions to happen in a few hundred milliseconds, and for pennies per transaction. But thankfully, there's a few options like Loopring, an L2-powered DEX, AMM, and Ethereum wallet that trades at 2,000 transactions per second. That's quite a lot. Lastly, be patient. In most cases, unless you're trading on an AMM and your transaction has to confirm before the market rate changes, most DeFi-related transactions can sit for longer at lower gas prices while you wait for it to confirm. Becoming familiar with how to replace a transaction using this video by DeFi Dad can save you lots of time and trouble unsticking a pending transaction with too low of a gas price. The key takeaway here is that gas is never a topic of joy within the DeFi and Ethereum community, but by learning and understanding the auction-like bidding process to set prices, one can save lots of money over time. A simple rule of thumb is, if your Ethereum transaction confirms immediately, you overpaid. Find ways to reduce your gas costs so you can let that money earn passive income in other DeFi applications. And we should win a prize this year for the most use of the word gas in a single video. Gas. It's a common question in DeFi. What's next? What's next? What's next, Alp?
Honestly, I don't know.
Well, after watching this series, you might be asking yourself, indeed, what is next? And that's what is so magnificent about this new world of DeFi. We don't know. But whatever it is, it's coming fast and furious. Back up a minute to appreciate DeFi in 2020, the landmark year of Ethereum to date. You can ponder regrets at having not bought ETH for as little as $85 during the pandemic-induced market crashes in March, long before the most recent price movements to $1,000 plus. But put that to one side. Instead, where we saw real meaningful activity and adoption is quite literally every metric across DeFi. The Crypto Analytics newsletter, Our Network, estimates 500,000 active addresses and 1 million users were participating in DeFi at the end of 2020. Total value locked, TVL, the almighty meme of memes of memes, the meme that memes the memes in DeFi, showed about a 20x 28x, what is it? It's 28x increase from 700 million on January the 1st, 2020 to just over $14 billion a year later. In 2020, tokenized Bitcoins grew an astounding 140x from about 1,100 tokenized Bitcoins to over 140,000 tokenized Bitcoins on Ethereum, worth today about $4.4 billion. And that means that all those long-term hodlers of Bitcoin are starting to play in the Ethereum sandbox. And that is a good thing. Stablecoins on Ethereum ballooned to about $20 billion, enough so that US regulators and Congress representatives got all frothy around the collar. What are we going to do about this stablecoin? I'll tell you what they're going to do. They proposed a bill to regulate them. Who saw that coming? So what can we expect in 2021? Honestly, it feels like we're about to go bananas. And if you've seen our videos from last year, you already know that we thought we went bananas, but it's gonna go even more ballistic, bonkers. Based on what we know is already in progress and being worked on, the future of DeFi looks like this. With the transition to proof of stake on Ethereum and continued advancement of layer 2 solutions, we should see Ethereum DeFi network fees dramatically drop to fractions of a penny per transaction, while transaction throughput increases to the point where you can confirm transactions within a few hundred milliseconds, the length of time required to click a button on the screen. Liquidity will continue to grow on AMMs and DEXs to the point where you can trade hundreds of millions and eventually billions of dollars in a single transaction with near zero slippage. Total value locked, or TVL, across all of DeFi will grow to easily eclipse the market cap of Bitcoin, and given that DeFi on Ethereum will likely hold more than 50% of the circulating Bitcoin supply in the form of tokenized BTC like RenBTC or SBTC, if BTC keeps going up in value, how can any Bitcoin hodler skip the opportunity to passively earn with their BTC, especially when there's no KYC or sign-up required? DeFi like synthetics will someday allow you to trade pretty much whatever you want. Forex markets, commodities like gold or oil, Google stock, the S&P 500 index, Tesla stock, you name it. Derivatives trading in DeFi on Ethereum will be a multi-trillion-dollar market, and not only will we witness these sort of numbers, but this trading will eclipse the volumes traded in TradFi, because what trader would ever want to trade on markets during limited business hours when they can trade 24/7, 365 on the crypto markets? Basically meaning there's money to be made anywhere at any time.
Anytime, anywhere.
The biggest artists, musicians, and athletes in the world will turn to issuing personal tokens. They'll better connect with their fan base by rewarding them with tokens that represent their influence. Kanye West might well introduce a Yeezy token. The next Michael Jordan will have an Air token in it. Literally anything can happen. DeFi will eventually erode some of the most sacred institutions of finance, such as home mortgages. And once DeFi establishes reliable, under-collateralized lending, it's lights out. Now, why would anyone turn to manually emailing all their personal information with a dozen middlemen involved, each charging a fee, when home buyers can easily get instantly approved for the money they need to purchase a home on the likes of Ava or Compound? And it may sound like fantasy, but this is really just around the corner. And the list goes on, but the point is this: we as humans are terribly flawed at estimating the exponential changes that come about from technology. And this is yet another example that we will likely all look back upon to say, I just didn't understand what was coming. I couldn't see it. Well, I don't blame you. So all we can do is stay patient, never stop learning, try everything new, and above all else, enjoy the ride that is DeFi. And think about this: if you can think it, if you can imagine it, chances are somebody somewhere is building it. The Internet of Money is really here, so you best not bet against it. You've been watching DeFi 101. Do be sure and check out the other videos in this series and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the new videos as they drop. And above all, yes, stay safe out there.